Bulls fans have lost trust in the Chicago Bulls and more namely their front office and ownership group years ago. On today's episode, I want to ask the question, talk a little bit about this. What needs to happen this season to start restoring the faith if it has not started by some Bulls fans already? We're going to take a look at that. Plus, Patrick Williams is called the worst contract in the NBA, and Yuki Kawamura talks about how comfortable he's getting with the Chicago Bulls. Hopefully that means he's going to stay around for a while. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And I want to start off talking a bit from this thought, right? The Chicago Bulls, a couple episodes ago, I talked about the Bulls picking a new direction and path. And while as of right now, they still have a lot to prove that this direction and path is going to be more successful than the last direction that they chose. I want to talk about it from more so the fan standpoint, right? The Bulls went out and drafted Buzelis last year. They got Noah Essengue this season as well. They traded for Josh Giddey. You start seeing like a young core develop, right? You add into that with players that are still young, but more veterans in Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, and you're starting to see a path being forged there. Right now, the Bulls, I do think, before they commit to one direction or another, are waiting to see how much of this team brings over the fire that they've played with towards the end of the season, and if that win run that they were on is more sustainable, or how much of that is sustainable over the course of the entirety of a season. I've talked about on prior episodes how that is the right move. When you have a team that finished the season very, very strong in the regular season, we know the play-in performance left a lot to be desired, but when you have that, right, and then you are at a point where you have a lot of flexibility after the season. Most of those players, a lot of the players on this roster have expiring deals at the end of this year, meaning that if you give it a chance to see, hey, how much of this is legitimate, you have two pivot points. You have one at the trade deadline, which if the team is looking good, you may look to make moves to strengthen what that team has going on, or you could wait to the end of the season. A lot of these players expire, and then you can try to construct your roster a little bit at that point. But what needs to happen here? Is it a win total, right? For so long, the Bulls' win total has gone down. We've only had one above 500 season since AK has taken over. Does it need to be something like that? Are people more now looked at the development of the young players that we have here? Buzelis, who I don't think you can deny developed over the course of last season. Now, when we're in the midst of the season, you're looking at Modest like not playing a lot to start off, and you're seeing this guy that like has tons of potential but not playing on this team. That was a little frustrating. But then by the end of the season, even Buzelis admitted like, hey, what Billy Donovan did actually ended up being the right thing there. I actually appreciate what Billy Donovan did because he didn't throw too much on me too early. But now coming into year two, you want to see Billy Donovan put more on Buzelis early on. You're going to see typically the same thing for a player like Noah Essengue as well. I think that the more and more I've seen Noah Essengue play, we know the Bulls only have one more Summer League game left on their schedule. That is tomorrow against the Utah Jazz, no doubt. But you have, you expect that now from Noah Essengue. Like, I'm starting to see, like, as I talked about in yesterday's episode, like how he can help the Bulls right away with certain things that are his strengths, rim running the floor, rim protection, things like that. I think are things that definitely can help him in those areas, or help the Bulls in those areas. So is it that we just need to see that steady development? What is it for you personally that's going to get there? And I had to ask myself this question, right? And you guys know I try to be more patient with this team, especially more patient than when I started off this show, right? But I look at this now and I realize that the Bulls have picked what's probably the longer path, and that comes with a little bit of patience, right? It has to come with a little bit of patience. The Bulls went after it too early last time. In trading for Nikola Vucevic, that move alone may have not been the too early, but then, when you look at the number of young players who traded out, the number of draft picks, and then, to get back over the course of that time, DeMar DeRozan and Alonzo Ball and Alex Caruso and they had some good moments with those players, but the Bulls maybe went too far in before they really made sure that they had a team that was good enough to make the playoffs. And therefore, once things started crumbling down, like after the Lonzo injury, of course, you have farther to fall, right? So, that's something that hurt this team. But, I'm somebody who I realize the Bulls aren't really in a position to where I want them giving up a whole bunch of first-round picks. We don't. I don't want them to give up a bunch of picks to all of a sudden try to go all in on this team yet. I don't want that to happen yet. Also realize where I think some more Bulls fans need to realize as well, the Bulls' assets aren't great. Kobe is a really good player, but you're not netting a lot back for Kobe. So many people are like, well, we need to trade Kobe so we can get multiple first-round picks back now. Probably not getting that, right? We need to trade Io because Io's going to get us a lot of picks back. You're probably not going to get a bunch of picks back for that. And so the place that this front office has to be in, I think especially when you hear a number of trade rumors that they've been in, is that you're measuring what the value is versus the value that you already have in the player. And here's what I'll tell y'all. And I know this is not something that's common, of how Bulls fans think. We always think pick. But Ayo Dosunmu, even though as a second-round pick, is probably better than you're getting as a better player than you're going to get with anything in the lower end of the first round. It's probably better than that. Now, of course, there's outliers there, but you're looking at that as like more of a certainty. You know what Ayo Dosunmu is. And I would say this, he's even still scratching the surface of exactly what he can become because his role has changed so much, just like Kobe White. So it's a place where like I'm so interested in a lot of the pieces on this team, and it's so interesting to see how they fit together. Now we're going to get the answer to that sooner rather than later because this team's really kind of starting off the season, and I don't think there's going to be a lot more changes made after Josh Giddey signs. The roster's basically locked in. No, Jonathan Kuminga is no longer coming to this team. He doesn't make any sense for this team anymore now where we are after getting Isaac Okoro and Noah Essengue. It doesn't make any sense there, right? So that's not coming. So you're looking at this team having this and really trying to evaluate, all right, Josh Giddey, Kobe, how good do you guys look together? For a full season, no Zach LaVine to start off this season. Let's see what you do. Manas Buzelis, are you ready for a bit more on your workload? Are you ready for more on your plate? If you are, great. How does Isaac Okoro, somebody who's more healthy than Lonzo Ball typically and still is a decent three-point shooter as well, how much can you bring defensively? Can you handle keeping up a solid three-point percentage with more value? Can you do that? Then, of course, the things that we've been looking at for a while now. Does Julian Phillips look more and more ready? Does he look more and more like a player that kind of knows and understands what he can do on the basketball court? Dalen Terry, does he look better? This is last year on your rookie scale deal. You're going into restricted free agency. What you got for us, right? Patrick Williams, we'll talk more about Patrick Williams here in the second segment, but so you're still looking at players and evaluating certain players. And then even your veterans, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, the three guys that you got back in the Zach LaVine trade, you're still looking at those guys a little bit to see, all right, are you guys pieces that we can invest in long term? Are you just current pieces? What are that we are maybe looking to move off of on the trade deadline because you're expiring contracts? Same thing for Nikola Vucevic. That's really where we are. So to circle all that back, right? To get not as long-winded and to circle that back to the topic. What needs to happen for faith to be restored in AK? Something got to work. And I think that's the easiest way to dumb it down and say it is that something that you have here has to look like not only it's working, but you're moving forward, right? For years, DeMar DeRozan had great statistical seasons. The Bulls didn't go forward with that. Alex Caruso was great when he was on the court, amazing to watch. The Bulls didn't go forward with that. I'm not blaming that on the players. I'm just blaming that on the build that you had of this team. That build of the team did not really get places. If that was a team that no matter what and how people looked at Zach LaVine and everything else, if that team was progressing, if that team went from a 42-win team to a 45-win team to a 50-win team, people say, hey, we're working on something here. You got to show progression. This was the first year in a long time our record did not drop from the season prior to that. Now, all right, you staved off the drop. How much can you win more now going forward? Because Vegas doesn't believe in you. Some Bulls fans don't believe in what we have right now. And that's going to be the part that we have to look at and see is that if AK wants that patience, you have to show a proof of concept. And I will say that there was a little bit of that last season. But it was in a period of time and a point in the season to where it's easy for Bulls fans to write it off as a mirage. So you have to show the proof of concept. And this is a big season of showing that and showing what this Bulls team can do and what you're trying to build here. And let's hope that the Bulls are going to have success in it, because if they do, all right, cool, we're off to a good path. If not, the only path we may be on is maybe finally to the end of the AK and Eversley path. And I can't even say that that's for sure because of the ownership that we have here. But we shall see. Another day, another dollar, hopefully more wins. But you guys can let me know on that down below. I want to hear from all you guys on this one. What do the Bulls need to do to restore a modicum of faith in what the Bulls are building here? Let me know that down below. Or do you already have it? And if so, why? Let me hear that as well. Let's move over to the next topic today. There was an article written over on Pippin Ain't Easy, I believe is where this was from. Yes, and it was, they called Patrick Williams. This was written by Austin McGee. And he says that the Patrick Williams is the worst contract in the NBA. Now, this is a Bulls-focused website, so this is not like a national media website. And they said this: although Williams' 18 per season is drastically less than many other contenders for the league's worst contract, he's achieved quite less than just about any player earning a lucrative salary. Williams' whole career averages of 9.6 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 0.8 steals, 0.7 blocks, and 1.2 three-pointers per game. And I think that's a key part there, right? So often with Patrick Williams, we talk about the percentage of three-point shots that he makes, where volume does matter into that as well. And when you're shooting such a low volume, yeah, your percentages better be high, right? But here's the thing. Patrick Williams is never going to be a counting stats darling. We all know that. He has not had that role. He hasn't earned that role, and that's what it comes down to. But then when you start looking at some of the other advanced things that are really kind of frustrating, Patrick Williams is 27th in win shares amongst his draft class of the 2020 draft class. He ranks below Sadiq Bey, Trey Jones, KJ Martin, Paul Reed, Jalen Smith, and Xavier Tillman Sr., right? And that is pretty bad when you look at that fact that he was the 4th overall pick in that draft. He's 27th in win shares. That means that you basically have win shares of a second-round pick, almost, right? And that's the problem in the disappointment in Patrick Williams. But I'm going to use this article to more so, if you can't tell, I'm trying to be more positive than this episode. I want to talk about this. A Patrick Williams that finally wakes up can completely and utterly change the way that this team operates. And I don't mean that by hyperbole. If Patrick Williams can come in and be a 3-and-D player, and I mean go back to the player that played tough, strong, defense on some of the better wings in the NBA, if you can go back to that for a team that needs on-ball defenders, you can really change that. And then on top of that, if you can hit the three at a decent enough rate on more volume, Patrick Williams doesn't have to do a whole lot to make this Bulls team better. Now, he does need to do a whole lot if he wants to turn his career completely around, but let's move off the 4th overall pick thing. Let's just talk about Patrick Williams as a player and as a role on this team. I said it before we even drafted Noah Essengue and traded for Isaac Okoro. This team, every year that goes by, Patrick Williams becomes less and less prioritized. And you're talking about how many forwards we now have on this team. Patrick Williams is going to find it very difficult to crack the rotation consistently unless he's playing well. If he's not playing well, guess what? You got guys that even at a minimum are going to play better than you. And we said it, Pat the Designer said it on Locked on Bulls like a year ago. You got dogs behind you ready to go. What are you doing? Modest Buzelis passed you up. There were times last season where Julian Phillips was getting off the bench before you. Noah Essengue is now in the building, right? And so when you look at that, this needs to be a wake-up call for Patrick Williams. But as many people are, and many people have seen about me, I'm no longer betting on P. Will to wake up. I'm no longer betting on P. Will to all of a sudden become this player. And the Bulls seem to not be. At the start of the early in the offseason, we heard that the Bulls have basically said, it's all on P. Will. They're no longer investing in him. He's going to have to show it if he wants to be in the rotation of this team. I'm not willing to say that P. Will is the worst contract in the NBA. I think the monetary part of it has to matter in a case like that. And $18 million isn't what $18 million was a couple of years ago. But I am saying this: Patrick Williams is probably the most disappointing player in this draft class. In a draft class that was already looked at to be thin, but is actually proven to have some considerable depth in that draft class. Patrick Williams is the one that stands out as the bust. He just does. And so you want better for P. Will. But at the end of the day, when it comes to P. Will, it's all what's between his ears, and that's what makes it even more frustrating, because it's like he has the talent to do it, but he's not. And I know a lot of Bulls fans are like, well, let's trade P. Will. Who the fuck is going to take him? Because there's not a lot of teams right now looking at it and saying that they want a disappointing forward who has gotten worse defensively and is passive as fuck on the offensive side of the ball. There's not a lot of people who want that on their team. The Bulls, unfortunately, locked him into a full 5 years to get that done when really they probably should have gave him a 2+1. And that's where the Bulls sit at when it comes to Patrick Williams right now. He's disappointing, he's frustrating, and that doesn't shape up to stop anytime soon because that is who P. Will is. That is the P. Will experience, I should say. And until he decides to want better for himself, this just is what it is for P. Will. And it's unfortunate, but that's where it is. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Do you think P. Will is actually the worst contract in the NBA? Do you think P. Will is going to have a role on this team? Or do you still have some faith that P. Will is going to turn this thing around and play better next season? Let me know all that down below. One player that is turning heads, though, is Yuki Kawamura, who had another big game last night, especially down the stretch of that game. It was really important for the Bulls, overcoming that fourth quarter deficit and ended up winning that game. Yuki Kawamura was interviewed after the game. He said this: "The Chicago organization is so great. Have great teammates, great staff, great facilities. I'm so satisfied. But we still have a game the day after tomorrow. We've got to be ready for the next game, which is the last game on the season." He said this: "To be honest, I don't practice passing. I watch a lot of NBA players, and this is my style. I want to bring energy from passing and from defense. This is my style. I worked hard this summer every day. I need to be physical, and I've got to be better. I'm not tall. That's why, especially with defense, I need to be better." Yuki Kawamura is one of the best stories of Summer League for the Chicago Bulls. Yes, seeing Essengue have 2 really good games after a disappointing first game. Seeing Buzelis after his disappointing first game absolutely be the best player on the floor the next game that he played, right? The third Summer League game. And that was all great to see. But when you look at somebody like Yuki Kawamura, who is a player that, he has a big name around, like, because of where he's from and stuff like that. But, like, to see him come here and when he's on the court, the energy is different for that Summer League Bulls team. And that is why I said on yesterday's episode, Yuki is somebody that I absolutely want to see be on the G League roster. And people ask, well, why not the main roster? A, because the Bulls have all guaranteed contracts. We don't have a spot. And I hate to tell y'all this, no matter how good Yuki Kawamura looks, they're not going to waive Javon Carter to sign Yuki Kawamura. And I would say this: you shouldn't want that either. Yuki would not play. If the Bulls were to waive Javon Carter and put Yuki on the bench, Yuki's going to sit on the end of the bench and not play. I want Yuki down in the G League because he's going to be able to play, and he's going to be able to play effectively, and he's going to be able to help players develop and himself develop. And then at that point in time, if he continues to do that, then he can come up to the NBA and take a back into the bench spot. But as it stands right now, I would hate to reward Yuki Kawamura, and it sounds bad, but I would hate to reward Yuki Kawamura with a full NBA contract just for him to sit in the end of the bench and be the Javon Carter role. I don't want that for him. I want him to be out there actually able to play basketball. I want him to be able to out there and actually to dazzle fans. That's going to have to come via being in the G League. And one of the players that I think are going to benefit the most from him is Lachlan Albrecht. This is another guy that I get it. Noah and Modest are receiving a lot of the praise, as they should, for how they've been playing. But Lachlan, a player that's averaged 7.8 points per game, 2.3 assists, 1 steal, 8 blocks. He's a player that's been all over the place in Summer League. And while those stats don't blow it out the water for you, when you realize that you got players like Javon Freeman-Liberty averaging nearly 20. Jameer Young finally had an explosion in yesterday's game, scored the most points in Bulls Summer League history. You had Noah Essengue, Modest Buzelis, and them playing. Lachlan hasn't really had the big numbers, even though he had a big game as well in game 3 with Noah and with Modest Buzelis. But Lachlan Albrecht is one of the players that would benefit the most from Yuki Kawamura going down to the G League. And that's what I want. I want to see us actually developing players. And I think the Summer League so far has been fun to watch. There hasn't been a whole lot of wins, but it's been very fun to watch. And, one more game out. The Bulls aren't going to qualify for the Summer League playoffs. That's perfectly fine. But one more game. Let's see what the Bulls can do. With that said, I got one voicemail that I want to get into, man, that piggybacks off a different episode that we did. This one's from Reggie.
Hey, this is Virgil calling. Hopefully this time the connection's better. Thought out my work is really terrible. But when it comes to, trade rumors, which I know you said that this was it, Kuzma for Patrick Williams, and how you didn't really like the trade. personally, I think it's a far better deal than anything you get with Patrick Williams because just looking at Modest, I don't think Patrick Williams is going to get a whole lot of minutes. Not at 3, not at 4, even at small ball 5. I don't think that's Patrick Williams fit, obviously, because there's a type of toughness you need, not just physical toughness, but mental toughness and great instinct. And I don't think Patrick Williams really has it. I think he does need a change of venue just to stay in the league, really. Because 9-4 isn't going to cut it, especially if you want to be a part of if you want to keep going in this league. Because 9-4 is something a lot of back end first rounders, probably second rounders could do. But on to I think how Kuzma is offense will be far more valuable than Patrick Williams' spotty defense as we saw last year. So if the offer is Kyle Kuzma for Patrick Williams straight up, I do that deal. And, be happy for the fact that I get off Patrick Williams' contract. Also, when it comes to this summer league, watching Modest, watching Noah, looking at those two guys play really well together, being aggressive, being efficient, I like seeing that. And I think guys like Yuki and Liberty both realize that they want to have any shot at getting a two-way deal, they have to make those two guys look good. They got to make, getting them the ball, making sure put them in the best position to score and show out. That's how you get teams to notice you. Anybody can put up a bunch of shots, but actually making guys better. Those guys find a way to stick around in some organization. Hey, do you think Liberty and Yuki have a shot at the two-way deal? I think there's 3 of them. But there's those 2 and second round pick Lockman has it locked up. What's your opinion?
How many minutes will be there for Patrick Williams this season? That is the ultimate question, because when you look at it, we know that Modest Buzelis is going to be ahead of him. We expect Kevin Huerter, Ayo Dosunmu, or Isaac Okoro to start at the 3, which means that that's another player that's ahead of him. I think most of those players are still going to be ahead of P. Will in that forward rotation. And then it comes down to like Julian, Noah Essengue, Dalen Terry. Now, Dalen can play the 1, 2, or the 3. Julian can play the 3 or the 4. Noah Essengue can play the 3 or the 4 as well. And so you're looking at those things, and that's going to not leave a lot for Patrick Williams if those guys are playing well. And I think that's by design. I don't know if Patrick Williams is going to get a huge amount of minutes on this team. Now, to your point, for the Kuzma trade, would that mean trading for Kuzma? Would that make it would that make it smarter? And here's the thing. I don't think that the Bulls would do that before the season starts, but best believe, if the Bulls are winning, if this thing like I talked about at the top of the show, if Zach LaVine, if Josh Giddey and Kobe White look good and they look like a backcourt that's formidable, if the Bulls look like a team that's going to be floating around 40, 42-ish wins on the season, I can see the Bulls then flipping a player to add somebody to this team to make it better. And Kyle Kuzma is at least a scorer that can help in the offense. The defense is not really there, right? Now, I think bringing in somebody like Kuzma would then obviously affect the guys that we mentioned before, and Julian Phillips and Noah Essengue, at least right away. But the Bulls would then have to manage that. I do think P. Will is definitely going to be on the chopping block come February. But the question is what type of deal are you moving him in? And it's not really a salary dump because he has, even after this upcoming season, still 3 years left on his deal. So there's that part. So you're not really, teams aren't benefited. Do you have to attach an asset to it? If you do that, then I'm not moving off P. Will, because P. Will's contract isn't at the point where it's hurting you too much yet to where you need to attach any type of picks to get off P. Will's deal, at least in my opinion, right? So that's the thing that I see playing into that. And we'll see how it ends up shaking out for the Bulls. But I think it's gonna be difficult for P. Will if he's not playing well to stay in the Bulls rotation this year. And we'll see. Now, as far as the last question, Yuki Kawamura taking one of the two-way roster spots, I do think that that's between Emmanuel Miller and between Jameer Young. I do think that there's a chance that Yuki can get one of those two-way spots. And we just got to see how he continues to play here in Summer League, but I think he has a really good opportunity and chance to take one of those spots, and we shall see what happens there. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.